Hello everyone, it's Hooded Cobra Commander 788 back again with my second vintage G.I. Joe action figure review. And the first action figure I reviewed was the 1982 straight arm breaker. This guy right here, hello. And I reviewed him first because of sentimental reasons. He was the first G.I. Joe action figure that I got when I was a kid. And so I wanted to do him first. But this time, I'm going to be doing the figure that is far and away the fan favorite, of the most favorite of all of the 1982 figure releases, and that is, of course, Snake Eyes. This is Snake Eyes, and you can kind of see why he's a fan favorite. He's all in black. He looks really cool. He's got a mask. He's mysterious. You can't see any part of his body. He even has his eyes covered with some goggles. And he was just really cool looking. I did not have this version of Snake Eyes as a kid, so I was very happy to get this early version of Snake Eyes here as an adult collector. Because he's just so cool looking. Even now, he's really impressive, and I'll go over the sculpt and the accessories in detail. But just looking at him, he's got a submachine gun. He's got an explosives satchel, which my wife still calls a purse, but it's not a purse. It's an explosive satchel. The file card, which I'll also get to later, continues the mystery behind this figure. He's just really something that every collector really wants to have. So let's take a closer look at Snake Eyes here and see what we've got. First, let's look at his accessories. Snake Eyes came with two accessories: an Uzi submachine gun, which incidentally was the same one that came with the 1982 and 1983 Mobat tank driver Steeler. And I don't really know why a tank driver needs a submachine gun on top of all the other accessories that Steeler had, but he did come with this this Uzi as well. And just move his arm up here so I can get this off. He came with his purse, which is not a purse, it's an explosives satchel. And you can see it's kind of hollow on this side. It's got kind of a stiff strap here. It's molded in the same color plastic as the submachine gun. And now there were released later in 1983 so what were called Battle Gear accessory packs. The Battle Gear accessory packs basically were extra weapons, extra accessories. They were the same ones that were released with the figures, but they were made with different colored plastic. And sometimes, in the case of Airborne's gun, the difference was not very subtle. You can see that, of course, this is a very light gray compared to the original, but sometimes the color difference was very subtle. For instance, this is the accessory pack version of Snake Eyes' accessories, done in a slightly lighter gray than the original. Let me see if I can actually compare these two. Let me set these out and see if I can get the camera close enough so that I can get a clear enough view that you can see the difference. And it's really not a great difference. Just a slightly lighter gray from the originals. So that's something to look out for if you are wanting to pick up a Snake Eyes on eBay or from some other seller or dealer. In order to be considered complete, he needs to have the original accessories. And the original accessories, of course, are this kind of darker gray, almost black, and the accessory pack accessories are are this very slightly lighter gray. Taking a closer look at the accessories, this one, the handle's a little bit chewed up, but this is an Uzi submachine gun, and Snake Eyes kind of became known for carrying an Uzi. Later versions of Snake Eyes came with different versions of the Uzi submachine gun, and it's pretty cool for a commando. I think it's an appropriate weapon. And the explosive satchel, it's, I guess, I don't know, like sticks of dynamite, or these look like blasting caps on the top here. But appropriate weapons for Snake Eyes. He didn't come with a backpack. He traveled light, as it were. Now let's take a look at the figure itself. As a lot of the 1982 figures did, he reused a lot of pieces from other 1982 characters. For example, the chest piece and the arms were the same as several 82 figures, including Grunt here. Grunt had the exact same chest piece and back. Take Grunt's backpack off. But the same back piece, same arms. Of course, Snake Eyes molded in black plastic instead of the green of Grunt. Another 1982 character who shared the same chest and back piece was Breaker here. Again, green for Breaker instead of black for Snake Eyes. But Snake Eyes did have some unique pieces. He reused the waist piece that was on most of the 1982 characters. This kind of H-shaped belt buckle and kind of a thick waist piece, which, as you can see, is the same on Flash here, as well as Grunt and Breaker. But some pieces that were unique on Snake Eyes were his leg pieces. On this side he had what looks like sticks of dynamite, I guess, and a timer, which he will use to blow up an enemy outpost or something like that. And he had two small pouches on this side, which is a little bit different from what was standard pouches on the legs for the 1982 characters were these large pouches, and they were this, they were the same size on each side. This one was a little bit different, had like a little covering there with a buckle. But those were the standard pouches, and so Snake Eyes was special. He got two small pouches instead of one large one. He did share the same feet, the same boots, as a couple other figures, including Flash and Grand Slam also had the same ones. Again, with Snake Eyes molded in black instead of green. Now, I think that was a strange choice. I never really cared for this style of the boots. They look almost like spats. They're obviously some kind of covering over the boots, but I thought he would have looked really cool with a black version of the standard boots that came with the 1982 G.I. Joes. I thought that would look really cool. Just imagine those in black, and I think that would have been a nice choice for this version of Snake Eyes. This is, of course, the 1982 straight arm version, which means that he has articulation at the elbow. He can move his arms like that. It's referred to straight arm as in comparison to the 1983 version. All of the 1982 G.I. Joe characters were re-released in 1983 with swivel arm battle grip, which was this articulation here at the forearm, so he could not only move his arm up and down, he could also swing it from side to side. Now this one's really loose. There is a way to kind of fix that, but I haven't done that yet. This one's a little bit better. This is the Swivel Arm Battle Grip 1983 version. The 1983 version, came with a few other changes. One of which is the pouches that were on the arms of the 1982 characters were moved to the front instead of the side. I've never been sure why that is. But they also had a different waist piece, and I don't have an example of the 1983 waist piece, which was thinner than this big, thick waist piece. For instance, this is not the 1983 version of Snake Eyes. It only has the 1983. This one has the 1983 arms, but not the 1983 waist. It has the same waist. So this is not a complete 1983 Snake Eyes. This is a mix of the two. So I don't have an example to show you of the black 1983 waist piece, but other than that, they were the same. They had the same chest piece, the same head. Now let's look at the head of Snake Eyes, because it's really interesting. It was one of the unique pieces. It was not reused for any of the other 1982 G.I. Joe characters. He has goggles on the front, the same color as his head. They were not painted any other color. On the back, he has what looks like part of a strap. So it looks like these goggles are held together with an elastic strap that actually weaves inside of the mask. The mask itself has these like hockey mask type breathing holes, which raises the question of whether this is like a cloth mask or if it's some kind of a plastic protective face mask. Not really sure, but I did like the breathing holes. I just thought that was a nice touch. I think that if they had not been there, it would have really changed the character of this sculpt. It would have looked much different, and I think that the detail is nice. It helps. So those are the unique pieces and the copied pieces for the 1982 version. Now, as I said, I never had this version of Snake Eyes as a kid, and I wish that I had, because I really liked this version. The version of Snake Eyes that is probably the most iconic and most remembered by fans and collectors is this version from 1985. This was completely redone. There were no parts reused from the 1982 and 83 version for this 1985 version of Snake Eyes. And people really liked this version of Snake Eyes. He was still black, but his molded-on features like his grenade strap, his belt, his gun holster, they were in a dark gray, which was a nice contrast. It really was. And he had this kind of silver dart gun on his wrist. This is not a very good example of the 1985 Snake Eyes because his waist piece is broken here at the crotch. That's unfortunately very frequent on these characters. And he's got a broken thumb here on his left hand. So this is not a great example, but you can see the differences between the two. His entire face was still covered in 1985, but with this really neat kind of visor thing, not the goggles like in the old version, and the visor was painted a dark gray for a nice contrast with the black, a very subtle contrast. But like I said, I really liked this version better because of a few, I think, unfortunate choices on the 1985 Snake Eyes. I did not care for the way his lips and chin were molded, kind of sculpted on there. I don't think there was any reason for that. I don't think if he were wearing a mask, you would see that kind of detail of his lips and his chin. But that looked really odd, and it also led to a really unfortunate costume choice for the movie version, the G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra movie version of Snake Eyes, which I really thought was very unfortunate. Poor choice. And he's got on his feet these pouches near his ankles, which I never cared for. I thought he should have full, Army-style combat boots, which is again, I didn't care for on this, and I don't care for on this. It looks like he's wearing, black sneakers with pouches on the ankles. But this is still a really cool version of Snake Eyes, and so I will eventually get a better version with all of the accessories. This version of Snake Eyes came with a lot of accessories. He came with another Uzi submachine gun, a backpack this time, and a sword, which is really cool looking. And he also came with his pet wolf, Timber, which I don't have. I'll eventually get a better version of this 1985 version, but this is the one that most people remember. The second version of Snake Eyes here compared to the first. Seems to have bulked up a little bit between 1982 and 1985 too. Check out that chest. Man, he's been working out. His arms are thicker too. Wow. He's been hitting the gym. So now let's take a look at the file card. This is the file card that came with the 1982 and 1983 Snake Eyes. All of the 80s G.I. Joe action figures on the back of the packaging for the carded figures like this came with a file card, and you were encouraged to cut these out. This one was not perfectly cut, but pretty well. As you can see, they were on the back of the packaging itself. So there's the old front of the card that the figure would have come attached to in a plastic bubble glued on right there. But the file card says that Snake Eyes is the commando of the G.I. Joe team, codenamed Snake Eyes. His file name is classified. We never learn what his real name is. His birthplace is classified, so we don't know where he comes from. So this guy could be anybody. And that kind of mystery kind of gave kids playing with Snake Eyes a lot of freedom to make up their own backstory and make this the kind of character that they wanted him to be. His grade, or his rank, is E5. His primary military specialty is infantry, which I think is kind of an odd choice. You'd think he'd have more specialized primary military specialty. His secondary military specialty is hand-to-hand combat instructor, which is not surprising because, as was revealed in the comic book G.I. Joe, Snake Eyes is a ninja, and he's highly skilled in both armed and unarmed fighting techniques. This first section here says Snake Eyes is proficient in 12 different unarmed fighting systems. In parentheses it says karate, kung fu, and jiu-jitsu. So I guess those are 3 examples of the 12. And is highly skilled in the use of edged weapons. So it makes sense that this version of Snake Eyes came with a sword. He received extensive training in mountaineering, underwater demolitions, jungle, desert, and Arctic survival, and some form of holistic medicine. Don't know why that's thrown in there. He's qualified expert in all NATO and Warsaw Pact small arms. And this quote down here at the bottom says, the man is a total mystery, but he's real good at his job. Heck, he's the best. I will not comment on the grammar and punctuation of that quote. So, one aspect of Snake Eyes that is not revealed by his file card is the fact that he cannot speak. He is mute. And his face is covered by a mask, not just to hide his identity, but to cover a hideously disfigured face. He was disfigured in a helicopter accident that also involved the G.I. Joe character Scarlet. And these aspects really added to the appeal of the character. His inability to speak kind of added to the silent nature of his character and his abilities. He not only does he enter silently into the enemy base and take out the bad guys, but he on a personal level is silent because he doesn't speak at all. He never speaks. He speaks with his actions instead of words. So I think that about covers it. That is the 1982 Snake Eyes straight arm with his accessories, his purse, better known as his explosive satchel. Put it on his shoulder there. Oop, well, except it fell off. And his Uzi submachine gun, which I will unskillfully put back in his hand. And there you have it. Thanks for watching. I've been enjoying doing these review videos. I intended to do more and have them come out a bit more frequently, but I've been in the middle of taking final exams, so this has had to kind of go on the back burner. But I'll have another review ready pretty soon. I hope you enjoyed this one, so if you did, hit like and subscribe and keep an eye out for more. Thank you.